Light the beam, because it's time for Nerd for 30, the podcast where we talk about nerdy-ish movies and TV shows for 30-ish minutes. My name is Kevin Bauer. People call me the critic's choice. With me, as always, is the people's champ, Tim Cack.
If you feel it, chase it, baby.
If you feel it, chase it. Our own Tyler Owens,
Yes.
back on the beat, because today we're talking about The Boys Season 4. Tim, what did you think of this one, man?
Dude, I loved it. It's awesome. I did a whole rewatch of the show, and
Really?
yeah, and it's great. I mean, the whole thing's cool. It's neat to see how intentional everything is, how good the writing is. I'm thinking season 2, there's all kind of builds up to Butcher making a promise to Becca to take care of her son. And the way they build up to this moment, which is in like the second to last episode or last episode, is by giving us background on Butcher the whole time. They're talking about his relationship with his brother, all of this stuff, so that by the time we get to this last episode where he has to make the promise and she says, you have to swear on your brother, and he does it, you feel that. Every time we get Butcher making a promise, or anytime somebody lies in this, or even tells the truth, it feels like all of those things are weighty decisions. They're complicated. They matter. It's also superheroes, which is fun. It's very political. I think it got a lot of heat now for being too political, but the show has always been
Ridiculous.
political.
Always.
I think they take shots at both sides, to the extent that I think the main villain in this is capitalism and corporations and greed and selfishness and fucked up people fucking over other people because they were fucked up, and just victims hurting victims.
Still truly hilarious that this is one of the most anti-capitalist shows that I've ever seen, and it's an Amazon Prime show. It's just, it will never not be ironic.
It's crazy they're rattling off these big corporations like Apple, Exxon, and just skipping over Amazon.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. Amazon's right up there with the group, but there is a lot of omission of Amazon, a lot of shots at Disney, which are funny, a lot of shots at other people. And it's Amazon, though. Like it's crazy.
I feel like in the context of the show, though, it would definitely, Amazon itself would be some kind of a variation of Vought. It would be like a Vought 2-day shipping or something. Like, it's so clearly under the purview of everything that Vought does that, like, yeah, the in-universe Amazon is definitely some sort of Vought production.
It's a Vought enterprise. It's all Vought. It's interesting how even if there are things that you really care about, any cause you care about, or religious stuff, or any beliefs you have, there is someone out there who will try and manipulate that to manipulate you. Someone will try and take advantage of that. Doesn't matter how good your intentions are. There are people out there who will try and take advantage of it for money most of the time. So I think that's the main crux of it, and don't necessarily find this offensive. I think, to be fair, it really lines up with my politics a lot. All the whatever stuff. I don't think we need to get into that. I don't think politics is really why people listen to this show. But I do like the combination of F the man, but also they're saying fuck. Like, it's a crass, it's brutal, it's bloody, it's gross. It's uncensored, and also like pretty tolerant and woke ideas, I think, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, in a way, it's the same thing that we've talked about with the X-Men franchise, right? Being a sugar pill, where it's like these ideas about civil rights that are being slipped into this thing that otherwise would be very shallow, just superhero entertainment. It's like suddenly you give it that undercurrent of an oppressed people that's fighting for equal rights. And it's a mutant, and it's a character that largely in the X-Men comics, they have characters that are very easy to empathize with. And so it's the kind of thing where if a bigoted person were to read it, it could be one of the first steps that kind of causes that person to realize, wait a minute, what if I had empathy? And I feel like The Boys is top-notch satire that is sugar-pilled inside a really trashy show, which is great. It's like it's like a weird variation, because all the X-Men stuff, you know, it's still pretty polished. It's still pretty clean. Yeah, we got an R-rated Logan, but nothing in Logan is half as bad is anything you could find in literally any episode of The Boys or a Boys related spinoff. Like that, I think, is part of the reason that this had this weird, people apparently had a shock revelation that like Homelander is Trump. And it's like, I feel like there is a pretty big overlap with people that just seek out like violent action entertainment and don't like to have any kind of a message in it, with people who would seek out this show because of its violent action entertainment and not necessarily expect that there's going to be anything deeper there. So I wonder, obviously there was like an outcry from like far right people online about this one, but I also wonder the extent to which it may have actually kind of caused people to think twice. We will never know the answer to that, but it's like one of those things where there's a psychological principle behind this. Again, psychology, not the reason people listen to this pod. But there's a psychological principle behind the fact that if you come at somebody with something that is directly counter to their beliefs, whether or not it's logical and sound and rational, they're going to get up in arms about it because it's something that it actually activates the part of your brain that feels like you're being physically attacked. People just clinch up before they even realize what's happening. So I think it's why things like this can be kind of important in a way that people don't like to acknowledge because it's The Boys, but it can be important if this is the thing that moves the needle. And again, gets people to think a little bit more empathetically. And with that, I will get off my soapbox and stay off for the rest of this podcast.
I agree. I also feel like it's not as biased. I don't think it's necessarily picking a side other than corporations are wrong, greed is wrong, and everyone is trying to fuck us over. Yeah. That no one at the top has our best interests in mind. There's conservative candidates, there's liberal candidates. They're all pieces of shit. They're all killing people. They're all doing sketchy stuff. There's tons of bad people in this. There are different movements that are good or bad, and they're all shown to be manipulative and corrupt. And it seems like it's a shot at everybody. So I think in that regard, I think anyone could watch this and be offended by any part of it. And I think also by that logic, I don't think anyone should be as offended by this as some people are, because they're going out. It's everybody. Everyone is under attack from this. So, it is what it is. I thought maybe for this pod, instead of doing beefs or thieves, or maybe we could work those in, we could just go through the list of the cast, go through the characters, and just give our hot takes on each one, because the cast for this is huge. They're complicated. They're fun. They all have their own unique arcs. They're all have good moments. They all have bad moments. They're all good people, bad people, pieces of shit one moment and doing the right thing the next. So I think maybe we could rapid fire go through some of these and give our takes, Kev.
Please. This sounds great. Let's do it.
So we'll start with the big dogs. Butcher. Butcher has had such an interesting arc, and I would argue he's the main character of this show. Or maybe Huey is the main character, but Butcher is the straw that stirs the drink, I think, for a lot of people. And his hatred and his conflict drives so much of this. I really like the stuff going on with Joe Kessler and the Joe Kessler reveal that this is Butcher getting sick and seeing people that aren't there and seeing his wife and having all of these conflicted feelings, and the duality, I guess, of his wife representing his good intentions and Joe Kessler representing his bad, and then him ultimately deciding to go with Joe Kessler is so interesting, so complicated, and maybe the main driving force in this show. What do you think of Butcher? Is he a top tier character? Have you thought has he gotten better or worse as the show goes on?
Oh my God, yeah, he's a top tier character. This dude is fucking iconic. He's incredible. I think better as time's gone on. That Joe Kessler reveal was wild. That was honestly so cool. That like 1-2 punch of she's not here, neither is he, was sick. It was so cool. So he has like cancer cells, like he has basically a tumor that is super powered, right? So like that thing is weird. I don't hate it. it's pretty weird, but it's something I've never seen before. So I got to respect that. But I do think that there was something that was really fun in a way in the previous season when he had the Temp V that he was using to have superpowers.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of the inversion of what we saw in Captain America and the Winter Soldier, where they made the conscious choice with Sam not to have him take the superpower formula. Same thing with Baron Zemo. Of course he wouldn't take it. It's against everything he stands for. In this, I like that he makes the black hat choice. He's like, fuck it. This is going to help me kill Homelander. I got to do it. And so it's fun to see somebody have powers that make him a legitimate threat. So I'm a little bit bummed that he can't control these superpowered cancer cells in the same way. But, it's still cool.
I'm curious about his powers and the nature of his powers, right? Because he took V and that gave him, or the Temp V, and that gave him these superpowers, but then resulted in these tumors and growths that are going to kill him, right?
Yeah.
But then he took regular V. And he says he did. And he would have gotten powers from that. So the tumors, it seems like, would have just killed him, but now he has powers. I'm wondering if he actually has the tumor still or not, or if he's actually this sick, or if this is Joe Kessler or his powers manipulating him into doing this. We see him with a rabbit, right? And the rabbit escapes. And then later he sees the rabbit and sees the tumor thing crawl out of it. No one else is there to see the tumor crawl out of it. He's the only one who sees it. He's been seeing Becca and Kessler the whole time.
But he was already dying at that point.
He's dying, right? So my theory that I'm throwing out there is that he took the V and something about the V is pretending to kill him so it can take over. Or the tumor, it's because it seems like he's healthy at the very end. He's healthy as the thing ripping out of his chest. So I imagine there's a way where Butcher walks out of this either without the tumor or the tumor doesn't affect him. Like, he has a superpower now. There's a superpower in him and he has a connection with it and something else is going on. And I'm wondering if the tentacle thing, I get the rabbit, seeing the rabbit basically implies that everyone who does Temp V long enough will get a magical tumor.
Yeah.
Right. So he sees that. What if that's not there? And the only reason he has a magical tumor is because he took V, like the real thing. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm with
I don't
you,
know.
but I think it's a good idea.
I could be wrong, but it's weird that there aren't. I guess we'll know if we see more tentacle people or if there's more things with tentacles. And it's interesting that he chose Joe Kessler, and it seems like he chose Joe Kessler because Ryan Butcher, I guess his name's Ryan Butcher. I don't know what his last name is.
I was wondering that too.
Yeah, his son, he's on like Wikipedia as Ryan Butcher. What do you think of Ryan? Because I think they're playing him pretty well. He's like kind of a bratty kid who knows what the right thing is, but he also just murdered at least 2 people. That's right. He's a straight up killer, and he murders the woman who was an aunt to him. And maybe if you're a kid and you have superpowers and you can't control it, maybe that just happens. But I also find it hard to believe that that's an actual heel turn from Ryan. I think it could just be a kid who's like confused and figuring stuff out.
Yeah, man, it'd be so much easier if the people that he killed were like in some way implicated with bad Vought stuff. But the fact that it's people who were functionally innocent it's nasty. It makes it a little bit strange. I'm wondering if they're basically going to have in the final season to face down 3 generations of Homelander with Soldier Boy and Homelander and Ryan, because I could see the show saying, Butcher, the overall arc of the show is that Butcher is going to go from wanting to destroy all soups to realizing that basically his son is one, and now he's going to help show this son the way to a better world. But that feels a little too optimistic for the like level-headed view of the world that this show has. I could see it instead going with power corrupts absolutely, and so Ryan is just as corrupt as everybody else. or going with something more nuanced for a finale where, like, maybe Ryan's not all good or all bad. He exists somewhere in the middle, and it's just how life works.
Yeah, you can murder people and just come back from that and be chill. I mean, that's kind of what the show's doing. They're flip-flopping with everybody, it seems like.
Yeah.
And yeah, Ryan's really interesting. I am craving the 3 generations, though, and Soldier Boy being on the time. The 3 of them all teaming up is going to be so cool. I do think Ryan at one point will do the right thing, I guess. I don't know.
Dude, Soldier Boy coming back up, if we can do Soldier Boy next, it's something for me that's like, it's both my beef and my thief, because from the beef side, it feels kind of cheap. It feels like it feels like when the Golden State Warriors drafted Kevin Durant. It's like, I mean, sure, like, of course that's going to be a threat. He's a massive talent. We all know this guy's reputation. We've got a history with this guy. So it feels a little cheap that they didn't find another way to kind of ratchet up the stakes that's new that we haven't seen before. But he's got to be the thief too, because fucking hell, man, I just want more Soldier Boy. Like, Soldier Boy was the absolute pinnacle of season 3. Like, just the most entertaining thing on screen at all times. And the thought that he wasn't going to come back was brutal. So I'm still happy to see him.
Anyway, we get Soldier Boy, I'm here for it. Jensen ankles or ankles? I don't know. Ankles. Jensen's ankles are incredible, and I want to see more of them.
Yeah, same.
He's the man. Soldier Boy's the man, and I would love to see the 3 of them doing their thing together. One of my critiques listening back to our season 3 ep was feeling real bored of Huey and Annie. And I was not bored of them this season. I thought they did a great job with them. I think I've made this comment about other stuff before, but it's nice to see situations where the relationship is not at stake.
Yes.
This season, they decided Hugh and Annie, they're together. They love each other. This is a reasonably healthy relationship. So Huey is going to go off and interact with characters we don't normally see. His dad, we're going to meet his mom. And Annie is going to stay here and work with the team that she really hasn't worked with before. And she's got this whole arc with her powers. They're both going on internal journeys and changing like that, as opposed to, oh my gosh, are we going to break up? Whatever. They, at the very end, when the most effed up thing that happens to Huey is he's sleeping with this mutant changer, this what
you
do they
think
call
that's the
shapeshifter?
most effed up thing that happened to Huey this season?
I think it's one of the most effed up thing. Okay. The 2 most effed up things are him, being taken advantage of with the shapeshifter. I think maybe the most fucked up thing that happened this season is Huey's mom giving Simon Pegg the V without talking to Huey.
You think that's the most effed up thing that happened this season?
I think that's, well,
we're just going to skirt past the dungeon
with Huey. Oh, well, that was funny.
The dungeon was unbelievably fucked. That is the worst thing the show has ever depicted on screen. Like, by far, absolutely bar none. That was horrifying. My jaw was on the ground.
It was horrifying. I do agree. It was horrifying and messed up, and him getting tickled and like sat on is very weird. I thought it was such an absolute betrayal by his mom to do that to his dad. Like, Huey had the V in his pocket. He was going to make the decision. He made the decision not to do it. And his mom's like, oh, I thought you were going to do it. You dropped it. So I assumed that meant you were going to give it to him. What? What are you talking about? This is also a woman who has not been in his life this entire time. I was wondering the whole time if she's really a bad guy. Is this malicious? Why is she giving her husband a drug that somebody dropped in front of her? That's crazy. It's insane behavior. It's truly insane behavior. And ultimately we realize the wrong choice, because he becomes this beat up monster who doesn't know what's going on.
Oh,
and also, what's the deal with people
hard.
going crazy now with the V? Does it have something to do with age? Is that why they're giving it all to the kids? Because the older you get, you mentally can't handle it and you go crazy? So.
I feel like that was explained in the 3rd season too, or an early season. I feel like they made some kind of a mention about the fact that they we're giving it to babies because their bodies could handle it better.
Yeah. And yeah, what'd you think of but the dungeon really got you? That was the craziest thing.
Oh my God. Jesus, that guy drawing the circles on with a Sharpie. I mean, it was like, it's the most horrifying thing I can possibly imagine. And then
I
shortly
forgot about
after,
that was crazy. That's so fucked up. He's gonna cut holes in him and fuck them.
Well,
that's crazy.
It's
That's
the same thing
insane.
it's the same thing with like how, like, frankly, the movie Seven is so much scarier to me than any like demon horror movie I'm ever gonna see. Same thing with like the movie Zodiac. There's a death scene in the movie Zodiac that's based on real events, and therefore it's the scariest thing I've ever seen because it's legit horror movie scary and it really happened to people. So like this kind of like plausible stuff is seriously so much more freaky than the idea that somebody could like run through me at super speed. Like, oh
Yes.
God. So yeah, that was like, I was so stoked when, what's his name? Tech Knight, which is just a dumb name. I was so stoked when Tech Knight got taken out. And I guess the other person that he had chained up, I guess that was like the Boys Universe version of Robin, which is also super fucked. Just, God, what a
really
demented
good
show.
It's so funny that he's like the Batman analogy and it's just all this bondage torture, and that Robin doesn't want to leave. He's just happy to hang out there. They're not trying to like unzip Robin and bring them with them. He's just down to hang out, and they're taking the old guy's taking care of him or choking him out, and then his sidekick wants them to transfer all of his money out, and just down for the ride, I guess.
Man, I mean, it's all there in the subtext with the Batcave and everything. It's kind of funny. It's like, I'm shocked I haven't seen a take like that before on Batman. What did you think of Ashley's arc in this season?
Well, she is also effed up, and kind of the whole show, she's been turned into this dom who loves hurting herself and other people. And I think it's fun. I think that's very fun. She is also scared out of her mind. And also, I mean, she's so linked to A-Train this time, right? Where A-Train is kind of getting a face turn, and he's kind of becoming a good guy and doing the right thing. And Huey forgives him. And it kind of feels like A-Train is actually turning things around in a real way. And Ashley, I think, is also a pretty terrible person. And maybe she hasn't killed anyone herself, but she has been complicit and enabling of all the bad stuff that's happened in this. And she's been truly awful to anyone beneath her, which is fascinating. It's crazy to watch Homelander abuse her and then her turn around and abuse anyone she can.
Yeah.
And to just be so mean to A-Train, and A-Train to be like, listen, you're nothing. I don't respect you anymore is wild.
Hurt people.
I don't know. Are you rooting for Ashley or against Ashley?
No. Yeah. This is not like when they show you Deidre in the show Andor. And like at first I was kind of rooting for her. And then like the torture scene happens and you're like, what the fuck? I don't think I've ever really been rooting for Ashley. She's kind of one of those characters that you love to hate. And
yes.
I don't know. I think it's great that the show does so much with her, because I do think that she plays this really fascinating swing role, like you mentioned, where she is so low status in some scenes and then she turns it around and she's so high status because that is so real in a corporate power ladder. I mean, oh my God, not to the same extent, obviously, but this kind of behavior that I've personally seen in the corporate world, it's like, it's real as hell, dude.
It's also perpetuated by all this stuff. I mean, Homelander just has these crazy mood swings like that where it just takes people out. Are you rooting for A-Train now?
I mean, it's going to be hard to. I did notice that they didn't have him participate in the murder at the beginning of the season, which was like, that should have been the first flag of where this was going to go. Because I was like, there's 3 people that died and there's 3 soups in the room. He must have contributed too. But no, I think Black Noir kills 2 of them and then the Deep kills 1 of them. I feel it when they did such a good job in like that scene where he's talking to his nephews, and then the scene where he transports him over to the hospital, and then that kid sees him, and it's like, Man, they did such a good job of depicting this guy who's known for being a hero, but is anything but heroic. And then he does the first thing that lives up to the way that the world sees him. And he actually gets to like revel in the feeling that the world already has about him for the first time. And it's like, there's no way he's going to get a truly happy ending, but I think he's probably going to be fighting alongside their side in the final season.
He's such a good example of, I think they do it well with every character. There's obviously the good guys and the quote unquote bad guys, it seems like, but everyone is hateable. Everyone does bad stuff. Everyone is also good. Even all the good guys are doing questionable things or struggling with something. And it's kind of crazy. I don't think I really empathize. I think I empathize for all of the quote unquote bad guys. Even Homelander is doing all this terrible stuff, and you see where he was raised. You see how he was brought up. You see what his childhood was like. And it's possible to hate this character and want them to be murdered and also have empathy for them.
Yeah.
And the idea of A-Train, who I think in the first couple seasons, maybe on our last podcast, I said was the biggest villain in the show. There's something so weak and spineless about him, and he betrays his family and his own values, and he's just like a weak human being. And to see him in this season really turn around, it's very cool. It's very cool that in certain scenes they want me to be rooting for A-Train, and A-Train is doing the quote unquote right things. It's very fun. It's very fun to root for bad guys, and it's fun to root against good guys. It's just awesome.
It kind of goes into that thing where it's an explanation, but not an excuse. We know the explanation for why these people behaved the way they did, which allows us to empathize with them in their position. It's not an excuse for the bad stuff they did, but it at very least helps us to know why they did what they did. Also, I just want to call out that the Will Ferrell cameo is so unbelievably funny.
So funny. So crazy.
When he says slinging yayo, I was laughing so fucking hard.
He's just revising his character from that Kevin Hart movie he did.
Yeah.
Like Stomp the Yard or whatever it was.
Oh,
man.
Was it Get Hard? I think it was Get Hard.
Get Hard.
Yeah.
I do think this show in general does a great job. I think this is a good writing tip in general, but this show tortures every character in it.
Yeah.
It truly, everyone is miserable in this. Nobody has what they want. Everyone is going through a hard time, and it makes it so compelling to watch that even the worst people here are struggling and having problems, and it just makes them so much more complex. And I don't know why more shows don't do this. It seems like a great exercise in general is like, how can we make our characters miserable today and see them overcome it? And how can we challenge them at the very least?
Yeah, man.
I think one of my other criticisms on the last pod was the deep and how I was just completely over the deep. And I think that's also turned around for me. I really dig this new bloodthirsty, demanding respect deep. And especially because he is still a spineless wimp.
Oh, yeah. This is Jordan Peterson deep. This is like, what's the dude's name? Andrew Tate. This is like Andrew Tate stand deep.
Yes. Willing to be violent and take out his rage on other people, but also a complete coward.
Yeah.
And he kills his octopus lover, but they have this scene where he is putting his head in his hands and dealing with the trauma, and then she's still alive. So he like he really wants, as a character, he really wants the moment where he can pretend to grieve and process this.
Yeah.
Like he is trying to manufacture fake grief, and it is being interrupted by her continuing to live. And that's such an insane thing to do. It's such crazy behavior, but it's juicy, man. It's very interesting.
It was wild. Like, yeah, getting to watch somebody narrativize in real time. I desperately wanted that scene to end. It was making me so uncomfortable. It was so heart-rending. God damn, I keep mixing metaphors. So heart-wrenching. And, oh my God, man.
Man.
So fucked up.
What did you think of? I guess we got new characters this season, Sage and Firecracker,
Mhm.
who I thought were both awesome in very different ways.
Yeah.
I love the idea of a superhero who's just insanely smart,
Oh,
coming
she's
in
so
and
cool.
manipulating everybody. It's so true, and just all this stuff happening, and then at the end, the kind of like Ocean's 11 reveal. Oh, it actually all went according to plan. Is so funny, and just that her whole thing is I'm just doing this to see if I can, and not seeing anyone as real human beings or emotional creatures other than using that to manipulate them.
Mhm.
Gosh, Sage is so cool. She's awesome. I'm into it. I'm digging it. I thought the actor was great too.
Yeah, she was great. Character was great. All the she's got the boys trifecta where like she's got the awesome powers. She's got the awesome way that she exists in the world and relates to the other characters. I want to see how deep it goes. Like I want to see how far back she's been influencing events to set everything up for what she wants. She's played by somebody with incredible range, somebody who is like blessing this show with great acting. And she's got a super fucked up detail about her. The whole thing where she gets the lobotomy and then she wants to eat junk food and hook up is so fucked. And it's so like, it's the kind of thing that's so on brand with the show that it feels like it's been a part of it since the very beginning. I couldn't believe, I had the thought of like, oh, what was Sage doing in the third season? She feels like she's been a part of the show for so long. She fits in so well. It was fucking awesome.
The lobotomy is so crazy because it seems like she has no other superpowers.
Yeah.
She is just really smart. So she is lobotomizing herself with no anesthesia or anything.
Ugh.
She's just putting a metal rod past her eyeball. And I'm sure she's done the calculus and figured out the right way to do this. She gets shot in the head and she doesn't heal, just her brain grows back. So she is just taking very real damage in this. And it's just so fascinating and so good. And the idea that you have to lobotomize yourself to get away from yourself is so crazy.
Nuts. And Firecracker, too, to your point. I thought Firecracker was phenomenal. Her backstory with Annie was amazing. It was amazing.
Yes.
Adds a little bit more gray area into the space of the heroes and villains. And how radicalized she's become by the world, but then also the fact that she is in a position where she's taking advantage of people that just want to hear something that's going to make them feel safe. And so she's decided she's going to be the person that puts that out there. It's like, it's so real.
Yes, she herself is kind of radicalized, but I think even more so, she wants to radicalize people for her own gain.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So she's perpetuating this thing that it seems like she does believe it. I mean, the whole like breastfeeding thing with Homelander is crazy, and all the medications for that.
Oh.
I thought for sure she was going to have the virus or the whatever it was in her. She's like coughing at the table next to Homelander. I'm like, man, is she sick? Did they infect her? Is this how Homelander gets poisoned or whatever it is? Yeah, it's awesome. She's not as powerful as everybody else. They had that huge brawl in the office that I thought was pretty cool, where they have to fight the Deep and Noir. And there's a moment when Deep is just lying there, and I think this was kind of dropped a bit after the first season, but how hard it is to kill Soups, how you need to find a unique way to kill each of them. It really feels like they've dropped that and have just been able to kill a lot of Soups through different methods.
Yeah.
But wouldn't the suppository bomb work on everyone?
I think so. I think for the most part, because it seems like everybody is still basically about as normally durable as a person. It's just a matter of like their ability to regenerate something like a bullet hole.
Right. So
like,
you got the Deep lying there, shove a bomb up his ass. How is that not the first thing? I was kind of shocked. I'm like, well, he's a good character. I do want to keep him around, but I would just have bomb suppositories all covering my body, and just anytime a Soup dies, just ram one in there, you know? like if that's all it takes to kill, I bet that would kill all of the Soups. I bet that's how they defeat Homelander in the end.
Bomb suppository.
Yeah, wouldn't that work on who is that not working on?
I don't know. It seems like he's especially strong. Like we haven't seen him take a bullet hole or anything, right?
No, he hasn't taken bullets. I think that kind of tracks as like an Aquaman character because he's the deep, he's under the ocean.
Mhm.
He should be one of the strongest characters in this show.
Yeah, the
And
sheer
we haven't
pressure.
seen it too much.
Man,
Yeah, I don't know. This is great.
it's going to be brutal. It's like, what, like 2 years until the next one comes out? Just fucking sucks that it's such a long wait.
I think we're getting a Gen V in between.
Okay, that'll be nice. Gen V is
And-
good. If you haven't watched Gen V and you're listening to this podcast, check it out. It's worthy. It's awesome.
Gen V's good. The Gen V cameos were cool.
Yeah, I could use more of that.
I can't wait for the next season.
Same here.
This world is awesome. I'm
Ugh,
all in on
man.
it. So.
Listener, what did you think? Do you agree? Do you have takes on characters we didn't talk about? We didn't really talk about, oh my God, so many people. But write in. Let us know who we didn't cover. And let us know what you think about it. We'll read it on a mailbag episode. We'll be back here again next week. Till then, stay nerdy, everybody. Bye.
Stay nerdy. Bye.